Welcome back, everybody, to That's DPI. I'm Tyler, and this is Zach. We got a great episode for you guys. Make sure you guys are liked and subscribed so you do not miss any of the midseason action. We're going to jump straight to Minnesota for our ref call of the week. Zach, you got a couple videos ready for us. This is a catch or no catch by tight end TJ Hawkinson. The initial call on the field was a catch and a touchdown. However, it was then reviewed, as all scoring plays have to be reviewed or confirmed, and the ref crew in New York decided to take it away, and they called no touchdown. And we are going to break this down because this has been a very hot topic. So here is, of course, the camera angle at the back of the end zone. We see TJ Hawkinson. We see him maybe secure that, maybe it bounces. And this is where a lot of the controversy has came from. As we then see the side angle, we see that the ball is definitely in his arms before popping out. You want to go ahead and pause it there now, Zach. A lot of discourse on Twitter has been how awful of a call this was. TJ Hawkinson himself even spoke out about this. Zach, you can talk more about this in just a moment. But go ahead and play this just real quick. When you look at the hands, his fingers are moving, and then bam, the ball does move. Go ahead and pause it again now. That's important because usually when the hands come in and then come down and the ball spikes up, it is because it has hit the ground. So I want to point that out. In addition to this, you see his fingers moving a lot while he's trying to secure that ball. So it appears that he doesn't have control when that ball spikes up. Those are two important details. Now, Zach, before we go to an alternate angle here, or more of a wider angle, what are your thoughts on that so far?
So when you explain it that way, I understand where you're coming from, especially on that right hand. I'm going to circle right here because this is a wider angle that gives us a little bit better view to just talk about it. The fingers are moving, and it looks like if he does have possession, it would only be from the left hand being kind of underneath it. That would be where the possession comes from. So I understand what you're saying. I want to see another angle of it just to make sure.
Sure.
Because it's kind of tough to see from that other angle. His shoulder pads roll over and then it obstructs the key moment where the ball would be touching the ground. Because whether it's the ground dislodging it or maybe his hand or his arm popping up back in the air, we don't know because we can't see.
So the big thing that comes on Twitter that I've seen, go ahead and play this angle now. This is now a side angle, and you see his elbows are underneath it, and we really don't see the ball hit the ground. The ball never really hits the ground. And that's why people are saying, how is this ruled incomplete? And I understand that. However, go ahead and play it for just one more second. And then there. He has now lost control of the ball. The rule states that you have to survive the ground. We've talked about this with the did Dez Bryant catch it, along with following week before Dez Bryant, I think it was. But we come over and over to this rule that says you must survive the ground. Here, he's not survived the ground, but the ball hasn't hit the ground. Can he still recover it? Yes, until you remember that he is now out of bounds before he retains possession again. So go ahead and play that a little bit more. So he still hasn't get control. Ball hasn't touched the ground, but now he's out of bounds.
Is he?
He's out of bounds. He's past the back of the end zone. So here, and then that
he
shoulder.
was always in.
Oh, was he in?
He's always in. Look, his head never even touches out of bounds. He's laying in purple the whole way. Like
Play that all the way through, because that alone might have actually just changed everything I was saying. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
So
Ball never
if the
touches.
alternate angle says the ball never touched,
And then when he comes to
he
rest,
maintains, he loses it, he's there.
he's about a half a foot away from the out of bounds and comes to rest with the ball in possession right here, clearly in bounds. Because at this point he has possession.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
So the whole time,
When he regains possession, it's right here, and we just saw from the other angle, he's about a half a foot from out of bounds because now he's got
you're
possession.
right.
So that's why everyone's freaking out.
So it might come back to that ball popping up, and it looks like he hasn't hit the ground. But if we see on that other angle, I just changed my opinion, by the way. I will admit when I am wrong, and I've just changed my opinion. If we see that he has not, that he did get his elbows underneath, and the ball hasn't hit the ground, like I've already admitted, go ahead and play this because it looks like he's out of bounds. Obviously, he's not because we just
Right.
saw that other angle.
So I
But
know
when
that
he
it looks
rolls
like
over
he's out of
here,
bounds.
it looks like he's out of bounds. And when I was looking at this film, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's out of bounds.
But yeah, no.
There, like he's out of bounds. But yeah, if that other angle shows he's not out of bounds,
And
then
so
I agree. I think the refs missed this call if he's never out of bounds.
this brings me to my point, and it actually kind of has an overarching, view of officiating in its current state, right? So this, as you said, when we opened this segment, was ruled a touchdown on the field in New York, or whoever reviews it, I believe it's actually the refs on the field, overturned it with this evidence. We just spent
You're right. Baseball's where it goes to New York.
Right.
NFL, yes.
But we just poured over this for 5 minutes and could not find concise evidence of a no catch. I'm not saying that it's definitively a catch, but the key moment right here, every body part is in the way of the pigskin. You can't see any brown in here. So if the ball's on the ground or if the fingers are under it, we can't tell. This very clearly should have been not enough evidence, upheld. Very clearly, in my opinion. And apparently in yours as well, right? You've changed your mind?
I actually did change my mind. I went into this whole segment about he lost control on the way down. He's out, didn't survive the catch. By the time he got it, he's out of bounds. And then you pointed out that you're right. In that first angle, we see he's not out of bounds.
Yeah.
Which means he maintained, which means he didn't survive the ground. But if the ball never hit the ground, he regains it in bounds.
Precisely. So this, to me, is the crux of why TJ Hawkinson was so upset at the media and at the refs after this game, because he believes his hands were underneath the ball. And he may know better than any of us because we don't have an angle of it. Even from the forward angle, his shoulder pads roll over and we don't see it. So this should never have been overturned because you simply cannot overturn it with the evidence. I'm giving it about an 80% chance that it's a catch. It's not beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's not a catch based on this evidence. So it should have been. But this is something that the NFL has a real problem with, especially this season. Going all the way back to the call, this call actually did come from the booth, wherever the booth is, in Kansas City with the Detroit Lions. That call, according to Dan Campbell, came from another source, not from the field. And then another play on Monday Night Football that garnered a lot of controversy is the fourth down from Cade Otton. It was initially ruled as a catch, then a fumble, but a first down Tampa Bay. Dan Campbell challenged the fact that it was a catch, not the spot of the ball. So the only way that this could be overturned would be is if Cade Otton dropped it. You look at the replay, Cade Otton clearly caught it. It's not even worth breaking it down because it was such an easy catch. But the refs come on and say, yes, it was a catch, but on second look, we've determined he didn't make the first down. Lions football. I have never seen them ever do that in my life. Ever for anybody. So I'm certainly glad it helped my team for once. I feel like this is something that would happen to the Lions, not for the Lions. But this is a problem. The NFL continues to call down and affect the outcome of plays in referee reviews, and it's actively making the game worse than it used to be. I think the refs have been better calling on the field than they have been in years past. But the calls from New York and the changing of plays has been pretty ridiculous, in my opinion, because This play, the TJ Hawkinson play we just broke down, was called correctly, in my opinion, on the field. And you can't overturn it from the evidence we had. And I think that the Cade Otton play was called incorrectly on the field, but it was close enough to where I wouldn't have been mad if they stuck with it. There wasn't enough evidence. And there wasn't a challengeable. It wasn't challengeable because they ruled it a catch fumble. So I don't know. I don't like the NFL stepping in and breaking their own rules, because they broke their own rules to overturn Cade Otton because Dan Campbell was challenging the catch. He wasn't challenging the spot. They gave Dan Campbell his challenge back, even though they ruled that it was a catch. So Dan Campbell was saying, it's incomplete. I challenge that. They said, Dan Campbell, you're wrong. It's complete, but we ruled the ball short. Here's your challenge back. What? That makes no sense.
And then vice versa. They changed a rule, but because it didn't affect the outcome, they took the challenge from Detroit later on in the game, correct?
No. Dan Campbell was challenging a ball spot because he thought Baker was down, and they ruled that Baker was not down, and it is a fumble, and so they took the challenge away. That was actually correctly handled. Dan Campbell broke that down in his press conference today. But this one, it is a blatant mishandling of the challenge rule. By rule of the NFL, you're only allowed to challenge one element of the play, right, Tyler? Because you can't challenge the whole play, because then you'll find other reasons. You have to be specific.
I want to look into that more. I do know that you cannot add a penalty via challenge. Like
Right.
like if you challenge a ball spot and discover a face mask, you can't discover a face mask or an intentional grounding or anything. But I do believe if they discover a non-penalty, and again, I want to look into this, I could be wrong, but I do believe that if they discover a non-penalty, they can fix that because the ball spot's not a penalty related.
Got it.
I see you looking it up. Correct me if I am wrong.
I don't even know how to look this up, because that's essentially.
You're correct that they can only challenge one aspect, but if the refs discover something else that's not penalty related, I think they can fix it.
So, and that's essentially what happened. What you just described. The Lions challenged the catch. The refs took a long second look at it and reviewed the whole play and realized the ball spot was wrong. If that's in the rules, I've never actually seen it happen. And once again, just like the Kansas City play, that I also disagree with how it happened, but the call was correct. It was an illegal shift. I believe they ended up getting this right. Cade Otton was short. However, by smallest of margins, I believe he was short. But somehow the NFL is making a worse controversy by calling down and breaking their own rules to correct these calls. Both of these calls we agree are correct, and they are still more controversial than if they had just let it go normally. So I think this is like the NFL trying to fix it, but they're not being transparent enough about their own rules and about what they're doing. If they had been like, if they had come out at the beginning of the season and been like, hey, we're going to make a significant effort to review plays and make them better. And that's kind of what replay assist has done. But once again, the NFL's problem stems from them not being transparent enough. And it's showing again because people are freaking out. And I think for good reason. It's really hard to defend the NFL when they continue to affect games like this after lengthy reviews that break their own rules. Curious if you have any thoughts.
No, I agree. It's kind of like what you said with penalties a little bit. We'd rather have 4 penalties to 0 and they miss a couple calls here and there than to have 10 and 15 penalties.
Sure.
I would rather have non-reviews that a couple non-crazy plays get missed than to have reviews come in time after time again, and then we have the issue that we're currently facing.
Yeah, I don't think that this is the solution to the refereeing problem. And I think that I agree with you. I don't want crazy reviews that are unprecedented in nature. If it's a review, that has precedent and it's a catch rule, fine. But I don't think that the booth is getting it right with the Hawkinson thing, and I don't think the fans like the booth affecting games, especially because we don't know what the booth, like who was in the booth. We don't know. There's no transparency. We at least know the refs. We know the tendencies of ref people. There's someone to hold accountable. Like if Brad Allen screws up, we know that it's Brad Allen and his crew that messed this up. But we don't know who's in the booth. There's nobody to hold accountable. And I think that the lack of transparency really has fans feeling weird, and I don't blame them.
I agree. And the last thing we'll talk about with officiating here is it kind of reminds me of about 10 years ago where we stopped knowing what a catch was
Yeah,
because of the booth.
right. It was just kind of up to the
It,
whimsy of the NFL. And I feel like we're back to that stage.
mhm. And they got better. And so I do believe that the NFL is going to get better. But why are we regressing?
Yeah, I
Is
don't.
something that I want to figure out and then maybe discuss later as we go forward in our episodes.
Yeah, this certainly won't be the last time we talk about this because it won't be the last time the NFL messes up. It's clearly been an emphasis from the NFL to call down and correct plays that they deem incorrect. So we'll continue to talk about this and maybe explore why further
Mhm.
down the season. But enough about officiating. Let's move on to our respective teams. No, let's move on to our storylines of the week. Excuse me. The
Yes.
first one being the Eagles kind of switched out edge rushers this week. They had Zadarius Smith, former Detroit Lion and Cleveland Brown and Green Bay Packer, retire suddenly midseason. He's just like, I'm done. And so subsequent to that, Brandon Graham, the edge rusher who strip sacked Tom Brady in 2017 to win the Eagles their first Super Bowl, unretires to join the Philadelphia Eagles. So kind of they trade Zadarius Smith for Brandon Graham. What does this mean for Philly, and how wild is that? Just an unretiring of a team legend.
It's certainly unprecedented, I feel like. You don't see a lot I mean, you see maybe a Brett Favre situation where they retire, but then unretire in that same offseason, or Tom Brady who unretired a year later. How long has this guy been retired?
Well, he played all of 11 games last season.
Oh, he was last season. Okay, well, that kind of helps my argument a little bit. I didn't realize he was still playing last season, which tells me that I don't think this is as big of an impact as Eagles fans like to think it is. It's a big team legend, a huge reason that they won Super Bowl 52 against the New England Patriots. They're not getting 2017 version of him. They are going to get the guy that played 11 games that I forgot was playing still.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he was bad last year, but he was not the team legend that he was still.
So yeah, the last time that he notched more than 3 sacks was 2022. His age 34 season. He had double digits that year, 11. So Brandon Graham clearly is an ageless veteran. But in 2023, sorry, that was 22. In 2023 and 2024, he had 3 and 3.5 sacks respectively. So this is more of a rotational contributor for Philly, not necessarily someone you can hang your hat on to play 60 snaps and contribute to what has been a lackluster pass rush without some of the absolute demons they had last year for their Super
And
Bowl
that's
run.
why I thought he was, and that's why I thought he was retired, is because I don't follow the depth of the Philadelphia Eagles. So 2022 was the last time he really did anything noteworthy, and so that's just why naturally I didn't realize he was still playing through 2024.
Right. And I think that's going to sum up his impact this year, too. They just need a body with experience with that scheme. But
Which fair though, fair. I
yeah,
respect the signing. I just don't think it's going to be that impactful.
right. It might make Philadelphia fans feel a little bit better because he's a known quantity, but he doesn't have a lot left in the tank as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of teams who need help, we have a Chiefs team that is rolling on offense, dominating their last 4 games, really scoring 30 plus points in each of their last 4 games offensively. Rashee Rice is back. They're fully healthy, minus whatever the heck is going on with Josh Simmons, which I wish we had more to report to you guys. We don't. We have no information. Nobody does.
That's what's weird about it. That's what's weird about it.
It is a
But
weird situation.
continue on.
It is a weird situation, and we genuinely can't talk more about it because that's all we know, that it's weird. But the Chiefs are rolling on offense. However, defensively, Omar Norman Lott announced yesterday, torn ACL, the second round pick, done for the year. He was doing decent, I'd say. He had a sack. He was at least playing a fair amount of snaps. It is now that he's gone, they're left with Derek Nottie, who per PFF is one of the worst interior defensive linemen in football this year, and Chris Jones. Obviously, Chris Jones is Chris Jones, future Hall of Famer, absolute weapon. But they don't have anybody on the interior opposite Jones, and the four-man pass rush of the Chiefs is really struggling this year. So the Chiefs have been in the rumor mill of shopping for edge rushers or defensive linemen in general. And so I'm going to pass it to you, Tyler. Who do you think is a trade target or two that we should be looking out for Kansas City to acquire?
So I'm looking one thing up just real quick, and then that will tell me my answer. The NFL trade deadline is what I am searching up right now. And when is okay, I dislike Yahoo search engine. When is the NFL trade deadline, Zach?
I believe it's week 9. It's either week 8 or week
So
9.
okay, I'm gonna call an audible here.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks from now, and it's week 7. So
2 weeks
9.
from now. Okay. Okay. Man,
November
Yahoo
4th.
really failed. November 4th. Yahoo search engine really failed me there for a second. But I don't think the Chiefs are going to do anything until the NFL trade deadline, and that's going to determine if we do something or not. Because the Chiefs make moves solely based on the future and not a band-aid. The Chiefs do not make band-aid moves. Adding a pass rusher right now would be a band-aid move because halfway through next year we'll get Omar Norman Lott back. We'll have Chris Jones. Maybe Mike Pennell will be playing better. We'll have Ashton Gelati, who is an edge rusher, but maybe we can put him in the interior part as our band-aid. So trading for somebody right now is a band-aid move. The Chiefs don't make band-aid moves. So I think they're gonna wait until the trade deadline to see who's selling. I don't think we're going to go after a particular guy. There are rumors that the Chiefs might trade with the Jets, who would essentially be sellers, and I would love to go get Quentin Williams. I don't think we're going to be willing to give up what it would require to get Quentin Williams, which would, in my mind, be at least a second-round draft pick.
Yeah.
So I would not be shocked if the Chiefs don't make any moves. And that is why, because we don't make Band-Aid like moves.
So here's my counter argument to the Chiefs who don't make Band-Aid moves. Last year they did. Our struggling receiving core, Rashee Rice out with injury. They were relying on a rookie. They made a Band-Aid move for a player they did not re-sign in DeAndre Hopkins. Didn't give up a ton, but he was a Band-Aid move. They had no long-term plans for him. This is a similar situation. Position group that's very important to Spags' defense, already struggling, loses a player that they invested heavily in, second-round pick. They now may need to be in the position to where they must make a Band-Aid move.
I'm not sure if I would call Hopkins a Band-Aid move just because there was uncertainty with the future, such as Rashee Rice. Is he going to be out 2 games or a year? Because that due process was still going.
That was post Rashee Rice's ACL tear. He was done for the year. So that was a Super Bowl run, bolstering Band-Aid move.
But they still didn't know what this year would look like with him due to the possible suspension. That hadn't been clear yet. He might have been out for 4 games this year, 2 games this year, 10 games this year, the whole season. We didn't know. We also had not just one good receiver out. We had several good receivers out. I think
Hollywood Brown was done, yeah.
Hollywood Brown was done. Rashee Rice was done. Sky Moore was on the team. The whole room was a disaster. Right now, we still have Chris Jones. We still have an okay edge rusher. It's more of the depth that we need. And so it depends on if the Chiefs view that depth position as the guy who comes in when Jones leaves the field as we need that guy to win the Super Bowl. Because with Hopkins, you need receivers to win the Super Bowl. Do we need the guy who comes in for Chris Jones to win the Super Bowl?
It's not the guy that comes in for Chris Jones. It's the guy opposite of Chris Jones. Because Derek Nottie is that guy, and he's been the worst.
Mm-hmm.
He's been the worst at his position in football. And then the other guy was Omar
And I'm
Norman.
not disagreeing with that.
And then there's Jerry Tillery. So one of those guys just came out, and Tillery and Omar and Nottie have been so bad. It's the biggest hole on their roster.
It is the biggest hole in the roster, and I'm not saying we shouldn't make a move. It's rare for the Chiefs to make a move in this situation. The Chiefs don't make a lot of trade deadline moves. And so I don't want to hop on the rumor mill and then in week 10 be like, Brett Veach, why did we not do something? And then go and play in the Super Bowl again.
Okay, I understand that. However, I think if there was ever a situation where the Chiefs needed to make a move, it's right now. Shore up that position group. Because one more injury and the Chiefs have the worst DT2 in all of sports. Like, it's really bad.
I agree. If I'm Brett Veach, I make a trade.
Okay, then who do you trade for?
I think it goes with value. I know who I'd like to go get, and that's Quentin Williams of the New York Jets. The Jets will absolutely be sellers. Quentin Williams is a great interior defensive lineman. I love him. He's also hilarious. Him and Chris Jones side by side would make amazing content, both on and off the field. But I don't know. I think Brett Veach looks a lot about not just who we want, but what's on the table that other teams are offering.
Sure.
And we'll see if someone's going to offer us anything.
I think that Malik Collins from the Cleveland Browns is someone to watch. He's 30 years old. He's on a 2-year contract, and he's playing some of the best football of his life with them. If the Browns end up being sellers, they lose the next 2 weeks, they could deal him because 2-7 is pretty bad. Even in that weak AFC North, I also think that another edge rusher, either Kayvon Thibodeau from the Giants, who could very quickly become sellers, or someone like, I'm blanking on his name, but I think it's Jermaine Johnson II from the Jets. He's another bigger edge rusher that they could make a move for.
I can see Jermaine Johnson. Quentin Williams and especially Thibodeau, I think, are going to require more than Brett Veach is really wanting to get rid of, especially with Thibodeau. Thibodeau's a first-round draft pick. Veach is not going to give up a first-round draft pick to go get him. And with Quentin Williams being kind of the head of the Jets defensive line, I can see Johnson being the guy that they're willing to part with for maybe a fourth-round pick.
Yeah, third or fourth is his value. Quinnen is second to first. So I agree.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are not going to hemorrhage the future, because drafts for a team in the Chiefs position that's going to have to eventually pay their stars a lot of money, they can't really afford to give up a second round or a first round pick. I think even a third round is too rich. So fourth or beyond is about their ceiling. And I think that puts them right in the budget for Jermaine Johnson II.
And part of that situation, too, like you just said, that they're going to have to start paying all these players, part of that's why I'm not sure if they're going to sell or if they're going to buy. It may be a situation of like, you know what, like we'll see what we got right now. We'll see how the defense plays the next 2 weeks. If they play well against good teams like the Commanders, we played good against the Lions. Obviously, Omar Norman was there. Now he's not there. They may save all of their draft picks so that they can have insurance for when they're paying Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones an insane amount of money, a Bengals-like amount of money.
Yeah, and that's a serious possibility as well, partly because of the trend. I do think that the acquisition of DeAndre Hopkins was extremely surprising and out of character for Brett Veach. And so
Yes.
to predict that to happen again is a little bit silly. But I do think that since the rumor mill has been turning, the Chiefs aren't looking for a running back. They're looking for a defensive player. I feel like that at least makes it a possibility if people that I trust are reporting that the Chiefs are looking out for that position group. But moving on to our final storyline of the day, mid-year, we're going to give you our mini power rankings, our top 5 teams and our bottom 5 teams. This is kind of help you determine who might be a buyer and who might be a seller for the upcoming trade deadline. So we're going to begin with top 5, and I'll pass it to you, Tyler. Who are your top 5 teams right now in the power rankings?
Do you want me to go 5-1 or 1-5?
Let's go 5-1.
5-1. My number 5 team is the Philadelphia Eagles. They've struggled the last couple weeks. I still don't know if Nick Sirianni's a good coach or a bad coach, but nonetheless, I do think the Eagles have a solid defense. I do think that they've got a good offense when they use their receivers the way they're meant to be used. They've got a top NFL running back right now, and I don't think Jalen Hurts is bad. I don't know if I'm not putting him a top 5 quarterback, but he's not a bad quarterback at the very least. So to me, Philadelphia's top 5. Number 4 is the Seattle Seahawks. They've surprised me this year. They're on a roll. They're 5-2. They're in what I think is not the toughest division. Certainly not the worst division, but not the toughest division. I think there's a lot of momentum in Seattle, and I think they're doing well. Number 2 and number 3, we are going to disagree with. Number 3, I have the Lions, and number 2, I have the Chiefs. If the Chiefs and Lions had done everything they've done this year, but didn't play each other, I would have the Lions at 2. But because they have played each other, and the Chiefs did win that game by more than just one score, I can't realistically put the Lions ahead of the Chiefs for that reason. And then my number 1 team is the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think they're my Super Bowl favorite by any means, but there's no evidence to suggest that I can put anyone other than the Colts at number 1. They're 6-1. Daniel Jones has put on a phenomenal performance this year. If comeback player of the year qualifications was used to suck, now doesn't suck, Daniel Jones would win that hands down. But last year the NFL rules kind of clarified what comeback player of the year details. So Daniel Jones won't get it. But he has been playing phenomenal football. And the Colts, they're playing disciplined football as well. It helps that they're in my opinion, one of the weakest divisions. But 6-1 Colts team with Daniel Jones actually doing what Daniel Jones is supposed to have been doing since the beginning of his career. No evidence to suggest that it shouldn't be the Colts. So, quick recap: 5 Eagles, 4 Seahawks, 3 Lions, 2 Chiefs, 1 Colts.
Gotcha. And we only disagree on 1 team in the top 5. I have 4 of those teams in my top 5. Obviously, our orders differ. So I'll go ahead and start 5 up. My current team at number 5, and I will defend this take, is the Kansas City Chiefs. They're at 5 for me because the Kansas City Chiefs, when they faced the Lions, who I have higher than them, were extremely desperate and extremely healthy. It's a great combination for a Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs team. It's really tough to beat a desperate and healthy Chiefs team, and the Lions did not. So I want to see the Chiefs prove that they can win and look good when the desperation wears off, because I think the Chiefs kind of had this resurgence, and now they're going to start getting comfortable back to where they're supposed to be in their winning ways. Can they keep the momentum? Because it's been a really mixed bag from all of the units of Kansas City, special teams, offense, and defense. I need them to put it together, not in desperation mode, for me to move them up from 5. Number 4, I have the Rams. I think the Rams are better than their record. I can't believe they lost that game to the Eagles. 2 blocked kicks is extremely fluky. And I think that while they did lose to the Niners due to that failed 4th down at the end of the game, I really do think that the Rams are a serious playoff contender. And without 2 botched ends of games, they could be an undefeated team. But they are not. They are that close, though. Then I have Philadelphia. Philadelphia I have the same reasons that you have Philadelphia. They were really shaky at the beginning. They couldn't figure out how to throw, but Hurts is slinging it. He was slinging it against the Vikings, which is a very good defense. It's about the only thing the Vikings have to hang their hat on is being a good defense, and the Eagles threw all over them. And Hurts looked really good. And so if they can get back in their stride, they are very dangerous. Then I have Indianapolis, 6-1. Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor is absurdly good this season. That defense is sneakily good. They are the best AFC team and the team to beat in the AFC. And then I have Detroit. And the only reason I have Detroit, I'm not even homering them. The Lions were without 6 secondary players against Tampa Bay, against an MVP candidate, and they held them to 9 points. That is absurdly special. Everybody around, and I will get to it, has said this is one of the most impressive defensive performances they've ever seen. The Lions, we know, have a great offense. If their defense can get healthy and continue to play at that level, how do you beat them? I think that the Chiefs had a really good plan to beat them, and it was also the first game those backup secondaries could even get any chemistry. So in the second game, they hold another MVP candidate to 9 points. I think that's really impressive. Also, that Lions-Chiefs game, it had some weird stuff in it. The Chiefs got that 2-for-1 due to a rare – that was the first career drop Amon-Ra St. Brown has ever had on a fourth down ever in his career. Like, weird stuff was going on in that game. Not anything like conspiratorial, just like unusual, uncharacteristic. So I think the Lions bounce back in a big way and are way better than their 5-2 record once they get healthy. So that's my justification for that.
So overall, what's just quick recap? What's your 5-1?
In sum, it's Chiefs, Rams, Eagles, Colts, Lions.
So I actually, just knowing you, I'm actually surprised that you have the Eagles in, just because I think the Eagles are sometimes overrated at times, and I think there's a lot of arguments for that. So I'm actually surprised that you have the Rams in, or I'm not surprised you have the Rams in. I'm surprised that you have the Eagles in still.
Yeah, it hurt, but I think they're legit.
With me putting the Chiefs so high, because yeah, like I get it. Like I'm like you, I understand that I'm a Chiefs fan, and I just so happen to put them at number 2. I get it. The reason for this is have they been number 2 all year? No, but I do think the Chiefs right now are number 2 because of the way their defense has been clicking these last couple. I mean, I know we played the Raiders, but like we did put up a shutout, regardless of what team you play. That's impressive. We did pitch a shutout against the Raiders, and we did hold the Detroit Lions to a good game to where we beat them by multiple scores. The defense held them well. And now we have Rashee Rice back, and we do have a healthy squad outside of Norman Lott. So kind of more of where are we at right now. Same thing with the Detroit Lions. If the Detroit Lions were completely healthy, oh yeah, it goes Lions, Gap, and then the rest of the league. But the problem is, unfortunately, they're injury prone. And that's why, because they do have the injuries, is why I don't have them above number 3. With the Seahawks versus Rams in that debate, what's the Rams' record? Are they 5-2 or are they 4-3?
I believe the Rams are 5-2. Let me look.
Okay. Yeah, I mean 5-2 NFC West team we agree on.
They're 5-2.
I'm not really going to argue too much. It's just kind of more of which 5-2 NFC team do we see as better. Just nuanced stuff there. But that's kind of my case for why I have Detroit lower and why I have the Chiefs higher, is because of where they're at in the present moment. I think back to Florida State, which I know that's college, not NFL, but when Florida State lost their quarterback, they were 13-0 ACC champions. They missed the college football playoff because of their quarterback being injured. Kind of same thing here. Detroit Lions have put up wonderful numbers, but they're injured a lot. And so that's why I've got them at 3.
So I'm going to counter that in the middle of my Lions recap, which I think this transitions perfectly into. So we'll launch straight into our team recaps. I'll begin with my team. The Lions dominated Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Ford Field. It was close in the second quarter, but it never felt close. The Lions out-possessioned, out-gained, out-turnovered, out-everything, out-rushed, out-passed. It was a slaughter.
It sounds like a Hamilton song. Outrushed, outgained.
Outnumbered, outplanned. Yeah, I mean, it was pure dominance, and it was all on the backs, in my opinion, because the offense actually had a horrific game. Outside of Jahmyr Gibbs, lots of mistakes, literally everywhere. It was on the backs of a secondary unit that people on social media are calling the Legion of Whom, because a lot of these guys, nobody knew going into this game. The Lions' top graded defender per PFF, minimum 10 snaps, was Nick Whiteside, a Saginaw Valley State alumni who played for the St. Louis Battlehawks and played his first defensive snaps in the NFL last game. He earned an 83 PFF grade and an 84 coverage grade. He was targeted 5 times, allowed 1 reception, and had 3 pass breakups. This doesn't even count on a 2-point conversion where he also broke up a 4th pass. He was outrageously good. And that was just the story of the night for the Lions, whether it was Nick Whiteside or Eric Hallett or Arthur Marlette, who recorded an interception, or Rock Yassin, who was targeted 7 times and allowed just 2 catches and shut down Mike Evans. Mike Evans did not record a catch working against Rock Yassin before he left with an injury. So the Legion of Whom propelled the Lions to a victory. It was also their defensive line and the return of Amik Robertson. I meant Aleem McNeil. Amik Robertson did play well, but he didn't return. Aleem McNeil,
Those names are close. It's cool.
It's fine. It's whatever. So, but the way this what weaves into the top 5 is the Lions, next week they have a bye. And after the bye, Kirby Joseph will have had 2 weeks to recover from his knee injury. Brian Branch will be recovered from his injury and his stupidity with his suspension. Terrion Arnold was practicing this past week, so he should be full go. And then they play a struggling Vikings offense before week 11. DJ Reader is eligible to come off IR. And then they're fully healthy in the secondary again. So they could be fully healthy by week 11. So to say that they're injury prone, I agree. They've had a severe bad luck of injuries, but none of them are season ending. So, and they're only getting healthier as after the bye, they get Marcus Davenport back, Malcolm Rodriguez back. All of these guys are eligible to return and they all have minor injuries. So the Lions had a spell where they're out a bunch of guys for about 6 weeks and all of them are about to come back. That's the reason why they're number 1, because to go into the bye with so much momentum, ride the Legion of Whom and get all of your guys back. I mean, that's a really, really good spot. The bye is coming at a perfect time for these guys to get rested, get healthy, and get back on track. I mean, they're already on track. They beat 5-1 Tampa Bay and knocked off an MVP candidate and made him look pedestrian. So,
and I don't disagree with anything that you've said there. I think just our disagreement comes from our point of view of what constitutes the power ranking. I think you're looking at more of the state of the teams. I'm looking at right this second, right this week. Once those players come back in a couple weeks and they're well rested, yes, they will probably shoot up my power rankings. But just because they're not back yet is why I can't put them at number 1 yet.
right.
If that makes sense.
The only reason why they're at number 1 is because Tampa Bay has played everyone close this season and were 5-1 and had an MVP candidate and they lost by 2 scores and didn't put up more than 10 points. So even with the injuries, they were still dominant. And so when they come back, I don't expect them to move from number 1. So I'm putting them at number 1 already because they were so dominant in prime time with a nobody secondary. That just shows how good that's how good their coaching is to me. It's always been coaching that keeps them this high despite the injuries. But I agree. I think your philosophy makes sense for power rankings as well.
Yeah, the Lions have been dominant. Fortunately, my team has also been dominant just these past couple weeks. Sunday was Andy Reid's first regular season shutout in his coaching career. He's had a couple shutouts in the postseason, but this is his first regular season shutout. That's insane. The Raiders are a horrible team, but like I said, a shutout against no matter who you are facing is a very impressive thing. It's very impressive to shut out a team in the NFL, regardless of how good you are, how bad they are. It's so good to see Rashee Rice back. I'm glad his suspension was 6 games and not 2 to 4 games, just as a player, so that he does not make that same mistake again. But as a fan now, it is so nice to see Rashee Rice meshing well right away. We talked about him being the number one receiver in that wide receiver room, and I think he's already showing it. He has been out 6 games, and he is already. It's his first game of the season, and he's already looking like he's in midseason form. It's wonderful. The Chiefs are looking extremely good. To your credit, as long as they don't slump back into their old ways, as long as they stay disciplined, stay aggressive, and don't slump back, I think the Chiefs are going to be really scary. And
Yeah.
it's wonderful to see.
I'm just struggling to see what changed because you're absolutely right. They've been incredible their last 2 games. To me, the only thing that's changed is their mindset. They became desperate to not fall to 2-4, and then they became desperate to not lose another divisional game. And they've proven that the desperation, it kind of activates the playoff mode almost, because like Kansas City the last 2 seasons has been kind of flat in the regular season and just really, really good in the postseason. It's almost like they turned it on a little early just to get out of this hole. So I want to see if they can keep that momentum and keep that absolute like pedal to the metal mentality. It's been really fun to watch because as someone who is like Chiefs adjacent, like I watch the Chiefs every week. Man, it's been boring for the last 2 seasons in the regular season because there's just been some stinkers. I mean, look at the Raiders game last year at the end of the season. I mean, without a botch snap by Aiden O'Connell, Chiefs lose that game. And for them to turn around and beat a better Raiders team, in my opinion, by 31 and shut them out, the Chiefs are back. Can they keep it up?
I agree. And the Chiefs are going to get a great opportunity to see if they can. We play a good Commanders team at home Monday night this upcoming week, followed by going on the road to Buffalo,
Yeah.
a
Wow.
gauntlet of a team in a gauntlet of an environment before going on the road to come back against, uh, Commanders, Bills before going on a bye week and then back on the road against Denver. So a tough upcoming schedule. Chiefs are for sure going to get that opportunity. Do we have time to talk fantasy football, or do we need to wrap things up and go straight to our games of the week?
We can go. We never even talked bottom five, so we can quickly hit bottom five,
Okay, and then we'll
and
go.
then move into games of the week.
Perfect. I don't think we're really going to disagree on who is in the five. I think maybe we might just have a couple discussions on the order. My 5-1, fifth worst to number one worst. I've got the Saints. The Saints look atrocious, but not as atrocious as the Oakland Raiders, who are 2-5. I refuse to say Las Vegas if you guys have not figured out by now. 2-5 Raiders getting shut out by the Kansas City Chiefs is such an embarrassing look. Number 4. Number 3, I have the Tennessee Titans. They've just struggled. I think they've got a fine future ahead of them with Cam Ward. I do like Cam Ward, but they have really struggled to figure it out so far this year. But even more so is the Miami Dolphins. I think they are the second worst team in the NFL right now. Tua looks horrid. Their offense looks lost. Their defense looks non-existent, and I think we may start to see their head coach in the hot seat as well. I think Tua is already gone after this season, but I think Mike McDaniels may also be gone after the season too. I'd be shocked if either of them come back. But the worst team, unfortunately, because I was really pulling for this team, is Aaron Glenn's New York Jets. The Jets are the Jets, but I was really thinking that Aaron Glenn would be a lot better, or at least better than they currently are. But the Jets just have nothing, not even a single win. They are the only winless team. They are the bottom of the NFL.
Yeah. So go ahead, say your list one more time.
5-1 goes Saints, Raiders, Titans, Dolphins, Jets. Jets being the worst.
Okay, so as we predicted, we have the same teams, just different order. I have the Raiders at 5th because they at least have 2 wins, and one of them over a fairly good Patriots team. So give them their flowers, as many flowers as you can have for being not last. And then I do have the Saints. I think the Saints have shown signs of life, which is more so than the last 3 teams on this list. I actually have the Dolphins next. And man, it's so interchangeable to me who these worst teams are. The only reason the Dolphins are not winless is because they had the pleasure of playing the Jets. they they have 1 win, I believe, and it's on the Jets. And then the next team I have is the Titans, who, without an improbable comeback against the Cardinals, they would also be winless. That game still is complete lunacy to me. There was an interception that then got fumbled into the end zone that the Titans recovered for a touchdown. And right before that, the running back had a 70-yard touchdown for the Cardinals, dropped the ball at the 1-yard line, and the Titans pick it up. This is already outside of the realm of possibility for me. So, and that's the one thing keeping the Titans away from being winless. They fired their head coach first to do it this season. The Titans are really bad, but they are not as bad as the Jets. Oh my gosh, the Jets have found ways to lose that I'd not thought possible. I think that Aaron Glenn is kind of taking the Dan Campbell approach, where he's seeing how much pain he can inflict on the players on his team so he can break them down to like a foundation that he can build them up from. Because if you remember, the Lions began like 0-9 under Dan Campbell before tying with the Steelers and then losing again. So like it was a really rough beginning of the tenure. So I wouldn't sell on Aaron Glenn just yet, but boy, has it been horrible to watch. But they've had their opportunities. I think they've had more opportunities than the Titans, but I can't reward them for how horrible they've been, and they have no wins, so they have to be at the bottom.
No, I agree. And I'm not selling on Aaron Glenn right now. I just, as someone who I know is a good defensive coordinator, I want to see him succeed. So it's hard seeing him start 0-7.
Yeah, same. Trust me. But moving on to must-watch games of this week, Tyler, I'll pass it on to your segment.
Must-watch games of the week. I've got 1 in prime time and then 2 in non-prime time slots. My first one starts on Thursday, Vikings versus Chargers, because these are teams that are inconsistently good and bad for various reasons. We talked about the Chargers slumps being their 2 missing tackles. But I do think that this is going to be one of those Thursday night games that is just, it's surprising. We've got superstars in the game still. We've got Justin Jefferson on the Vikings sideline. We've got Justin Herbert on the Chargers sideline. We've got a couple fantasy players that did very well this week for the Chargers. I think they're going to get to show off their skills again on Thursday Night Football. Vikings at Chargers Thursday night. I think that is a much watch. Do not sleep on this Thursday night game. The next one is Bears and Ravens for kind of a similar aspect. The Bears this year are kind of playing like the Ravens should have, and the Ravens this year are kind of playing like the Bears should have. So this is going to be a good test of identity, I think. Are the Bears actually decent this year, and or just how bad are the Ravens? Did they get a bad start, or are they actually doing very poorly? I think this will be a weird slugfest, but not in a way where it's an 0-7 team versus an 0-7 team. It's going to be a case of identity here. I think I'm excited to watch that game. And then my third game, I try not to have the Chiefs in every slot, and so I'm not going to. But I do have the Giants and the Eagles on my must-watch games for the second time in a 3-week span. 2 weeks ago on Thursday Night Football, the Eagles, or more so, the Giants surprised the Eagles by playing lights out football and having amazing performances by Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo. 2 weeks later, they face each other again. We have an Eagles team who's struggled the last few weeks versus a Giants team who has played well. They haven't been undefeated in the last few weeks, but they have played well. And now that they know each other, I think we're going to have a good classic division rivalry game on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be cinema, especially that last one, because Nick Sirianni and the Eagles are mad at the way that Thursday night game went down in front of the whole nation. Also, can't
And this
forget
time it's in Philly too.
right, and you can't forget on that second game you mentioned, Bears Ravens. It's the return of Lamar Jackson. He's back.
It is. That's right.
He has been missing. The Ravens have sucked. So if there's ever a chance to survive the season, I remember fondly a 1-5 team coming back to make the playoffs, not too distantly in the past. And I think if there's ever a quarterback that can do it, it's Lamar. And then I do agree. We now know that Carson Wentz will start that Chargers Vikings game. They kind of soft benched JJ McCarthy a little bit. So we'll see how Wentz continues to play. He's shown flashes, but I like all three of those games. I will certainly be tuned in.
It's going to be a great week.
But that is all we have for you this episode. Thank you for tuning in. We will catch you next week on That's DPI.
Appreciate you guys.